I'm Meg Ward, Brisbane Bronco, Queensland Maroon and Australian Gilmour. Former Brisbane Bronco, Queensland Red Gold Coast Carmichael.
She gets it away to Meg Ward. Beautiful try.
One of Australia's most decorated footballers. 10 years ago, he became the first in history to play NRL, rugby and AFL.
Welcome, boys and girls.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
So we're just going to have a very candid chat, like we have in the past before, but hopefully you can unleash a little bit more detail today, especially I'm looking forward to UK. So I want some really good Mad Monday chats. So
any cops in the room? No.
Any cops?
Oh, yeah.
No, they're all real estate agents. So they're all thieves.
Who might tell stories then?
So, is there any cops? No, hopefully not. So we'll start with you, Meg. Okay, so give us the Meg Ward story, because not everyone probably knows how much of a superstar you really are in obviously your background, where you've come from, what you're doing now, and then how you got into that sort of professional sport. And
Yeah, too easy. So for me, I grew up in Brisbane, a little town called Sanford. Just sport mad. My dad has 3 girls. First 2 girls, full girly. Grew up wanting the kids, the family, white picket fence, nails, dresses. And he had the third one, went, I can't have any more, but I need someone to come play sport with me. So I was that kid. So he pretty much, we grew up just doing everything sport together. Every Friday night was down at the Sanford Stags, watching the boys play. Then I got into soccer, football. Grew up playing football. In school, was fortunate enough to go represent Australia in England. And then sort of got to a point where the contact I was doing in soccer was probably a bit rough. A few too many penalties, send-offs, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you were?
Yeah,
you
me.
Were rough.
Yeah. So it got to a point where Dad was like, all right, we might need to suss out what we're doing here. You're just not playing any footy because you keep getting sent off. So we got to a point where I started to play rugby union for a bit. Was loving it, but as many females know growing up, the money's not really there, unfortunately, in sport, especially at that age for me. So Dad said, all right, Meg, now you've got to get a career because I can't keep funding you sitting at home by the pool waiting for your next footy game. So joined the Defence Force in the Air Force as a firefighter. Got posted to a little town up in Darwin called Katherine, Tyndall. And it was from there that I found rugby league. Wanted to play some sport up there. Quick background, told me to go along to the trials in town. Went along, was lining up behind all these kids that were sort of like my belly button height, going far out. These guys are pretty short in this town. And then got to the front. I said, I'm here for the women's trials. They said, oh, this is only under 14s. The women's was last week. You've actually missed it. So that sucked. But then I said, oh, well, do you have any connections to the coach? Would they be willing to give me a run? They said, I actually know the coach. If you go out here and have a run around, we'll just see what you can do. And then I'll let the coach know. So I bashed a couple of 14-year-olds and got the call up. So that was cool. Got the call up. So went to Darwin. Played for NT Titans down at Nationals, where Brad Donald was. He's the Australian coach, and was fortunate enough from there, got picked up, went to the World Cup 2017 in Sydney with the Australian girls, and then from that played for Queensland. And then after Queensland, the NRLW came in and I was played at the Broncos for 3 seasons. So I did it all backwards, but it was awesome, loved it.
Played for Australia as well too?
Yeah, Australia. Yeah, so Australia in the World Cup, and then Queensland, and then Broncos. So
it was all backwards.
Yeah, it was all backwards. Yeah, super random.
I wouldn't say Broncos was backwards, but they're not West Tigers, but 3
premierships. We did all right.
So, Kay, like most people in the room probably know who you are, and if they don't, they're probably not into rugby, but or union or AFL. He's actually a pretty good golfer too. We were out on the course last week, and I think we were stitched up. Like, we won that.
Yeah, well, we cheated, though. We still got beat, so what does that say about the other team?
They cheated more than what we cheated. So, but I really want to dive in with you, especially around the three codes. But I also know, like, you're pretty much good at everything. You suck at motor racing, which we found out last week, so that's kind of good that you do suck at something. Golf, you're pretty good at. You love basketball. You probably had a choice that you probably could have played basketball when you were younger.
Too short.
Too short.
Yeah, 6'1's, I think, well, the shortest on the court when you watch basketball these days. So
Not
I do love
nowadays,
basketball.
right?
My girls are in basketball now, just like your kids.
Yeah.
So I'm living vicariously through them.
Yeah. All right, so tell us, what I want to know is, like, so you went NRL, obviously you've done the union thing, and then the AFL. Like, you are only one of two athletes to actually do that here in Australia. So does anyone else know who the other sports person was that actually did that?
Izzy Folau.
It was Israel Folau. Yeah, absolutely. So, like, it's kind of incredible to, you know, one, like, I was doing Ironman triathlons and I sucked at all three sports, and but you didn't. You know what I mean? Like, you're at top. You've made top of the game, basically in every code of football, apart from soccer.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of truth to that. I mean, and I guess league, I played league as a young kid, 4 years old, just like your dad just chucked me out there. That was his game. That's what I played growing up. I played a little bit of rugby at school, which I really enjoyed, but it was only for a couple of years. Went to the Broncos, and then got a little bit stale, I think about 7.5 years in, having sort of been a part of successful teams, Origin, Test matches, winning a premiership, which is obviously the goal for most NRL and NRLW players. So when I got to, I think it was about 7.5 years into my Broncos career, there was an option to go play rugby, but the AFL called and said, "I'll give you $1 million if you want to play AFL." So I said yes. Nah, I'm only joking. But it's a lot of money, right?
I call bullshit.
They did. Jokes. No, they did. But look, I was going to go and play rugby, funny enough, for Eddie Jones in Japan. And I'd played rugby at Churchie here in Brisbane for a couple of years and really loved the experience. But the AFL had a franchise coming in on the Gold Coast who then offered me, I think it was 3 years initially, signed another 2 years. But yeah, I can't say I earned my way to the top in that game because I hardly ever played it. I played about 10 games at school, but I knew enough about myself heading into that. I knew a lot about myself, but heading into that challenge, I definitely found out more. But I knew that I had some of the tools to make a success of it. But in saying, if you think, I mean, going to your point about being a success, I think it was successful for a rugby league player. And, you know, having played nearly 50 games and kicking a handful of goals, one after the siren, was a pretty cool experience. But if you ask me, you stack me up against any other kids that had played AFL from 4 years old, you know, that was probably not a success. But yeah, I guess it's not apples and apples, right? I really enjoyed my time, had great experience, but my body and my mind was broken after it, just from the scrutiny, just from the amount of running and the load that was on my body. Took me a while to overcome that. Run into a few troubles as well because of the place that I was in mentally, but thankfully enough, learned a lot of lessons along the way and managed to get myself out of that situation and that I guess scenario in my life, and here I am now. I think it's, I don't know how many years it's been, since maybe 10 years plus, coaching footy back in the league, which is cool. Yeah,
which we'll get into the coaching part with South Logan there. But Meg, talk to us about, like, as a female, right? So, like, growing up, I'm a little bit older than you, but the female sport, it wasn't really like a thing, really, was it? You know, like, how have you sort of found, like, now, like there's nearly women's team and everything, the Matildas, like, they've sort of probably, you know, catapulted that as well. We've got the NRLW, you know, there's full squad. I believe NBL, they'll probably have a women's league pretty soon as well too. So it is definitely going to that way. But, like, what sort of struggles did you find as a young girl and competing and trying to actually make top grade?
Yeah, definitely. So as a young one, like I said, I played soccer. So I was up until about under 13s, under 14s in out at Sanford at the Rangers, where I was playing with the boys team, and I was playing the top division boys team in Brisbane. I think it was about under 13s. My mum's actually here somewhere in the room. But that I rocked up to the first training session. I'd been selected again in the top boys team for that year. I had an awesome coach, Gary Bronfield, and I remember rocking up to training, and I was the only girl with all these boys. And that was when it sort of started to become really frightening. And there was, like, every game, it'd be like, oh, this is that team that's got the girl in it. Like, you'd hear it, mum would always hear it and be like, yeah, that's my daughter. Like, she was so passionate about it. She loved it. But I remember sitting in the car and I was crying. I said, Mum, I can't do it this year. And she goes, come on, Megsy, you can do it. They've just got 2 arms, 2 legs. Get out there. So I did, went out there, had another awesome year, and then it was sort of under 15, 16s that I started to progress into the women's side of things. But it was definitely challenging. I suppose growing up, like, my idols were Carmichael Hunt or like Darren Lockyer. Like, they were the people that I looked up to. My sister had a Carmichael Hunt poster in her room. She'll kill me now that I've told her that. She was a big fan. She loved Carmichael. We all had it, but anyway. Yeah. Chris would have had one too. We all had
Tigers, man. There was no Broncos shit on my wall.
There will be now because I can't win the game down there.
But yeah, so we always looked up to the boys. That was all that there really was to watch on TV. It was very rare that there was a women's sport on TV. So it's so cool now to see the opportunities, to see the girls showing up to games, and the crowd's full of even young boys now that are idling the girls and seeing them on TV playing week in, week out, elite level footy. So it's come such a long way. I was sort of part of that journey of the transition from being paid not so much. I think my first season for a 14-week comp at Broncos, it was like a $3,000 payment. Which was 4 times a week training, 4 5-hour periods. So there was very minimal money. You needed a job on the outside. You couldn't live off $3,000.
Carmichael had extra zeros.
I know, $1 million over here. So. That's what I needed. That would have been nice.
Yeah, we all.
I'm only joking. Yeah. But yeah, so it's been a long transition, but we're getting there now. So the minimum now for the girls is 35, which is amazing, and I'm so proud of the game support that they've thrown behind the women, and we're only going to get bigger and better. And I hate talking about like money being the difference, but unfortunately it is, because the girls do have to work. They've got kids that they need to look after. There's so much more going on, but that's probably a big thing that we drive, especially for those females that have families and stuff back home, is just having a good support network around you. Yeah. That's what can help you with being successful.
And it will be no different to all the females in the room being real estate agents. You know, we all know what we've got to put up with, but you got kids, school pickup, sport, all of that other stuff, and they're trying to run a business. So I take my hat off to all the females in the room that can juggle it all, because I can't juggle at all. So Kay, you, we've spoken many times before, and we've sort of spoken, you were lucky to be in that team of the Broncos, super successful, in that era. You're probably one of the greats to play the game. Has anyone told you that?
No, I'm not. Definitely not. Can't be up great after 7 years of playing NRL. You got to stick around for 10 plus.
Well, was he any good?
I was okay.
No?
I left when I was 23. I think there was more to come, but as I said, boredom got the better of me.
Oh, for your position, I thought you were one of the best in that position for sure. But you've said before, coaching really wasn't a thing. Now you've been you were under probably the GOAT of all coaches in the NRL.
Absolutely.
Wayne Bennett, and I think Bellamy would probably come pretty close second to that, right? In my eyes, I wouldn't know, but. We all have this persona of probably Wayne that we see on the TV, super dry and that, and we've had many lunches with him, and dead set. The guy is the funniest guy in the room. He's completely different to what you see on screen and stuff like that. But was it ever a thing? Because Carmichael is now the head coach for South Logans, who we sponsor. We sponsor the women's team at South Logan personally. But was it ever on your radar as a player and going through and going, you know what, after football, I want to be a coach? Is that just crazy or?
It was crazy, yeah, and I never thought about that coming through. It wasn't until I went to the Waratahs and played under Daryl Gibson, one of the great All Blacks, who was a head coach down there. who just saw something in me and how I interacted with players and how I interacted on school visits and junior club visits. And he just, I guess the comment to him, and like I was, I guess, just being myself, so I wasn't really aware that it was any good from a coaching perspective. But he just mentioned to me, so I think you got something there. I think the way you connect, the way you explain yourself, you're articulate, but you're not overcomplicating the message. Like, I just see the way that these players are reacting to your teachings. He said, have you ever thought about coaching? I said, no, I never have. And I never had because coaching, because I put my coaches through a lot of shit. And I was only one of probably 30 players. And I used to think to myself, why would you want to just put up with this daily? Why would you be the first one there at 6 a.m. and then be the last to leave at 6 p.m.? And it wasn't until, I guess, that interaction that I started to unpack, I guess, what a coach is really about and started to think about my history and some of the coaches that had a massive impact on me and make you be the same. And what it sort of boiled down to after, I guess, a few years of contemplating that message from Darryl was, I guess a lot of the coaches thought to have an impact. And Matty spoke about it before. And that impact that I've had from my coaches and being there to obviously give me a clip when I needed to, but a cuddle when I needed to as well, and provide me with all the tools that made me successful, it just kind of lit a little fire in me. And I guess over the past 4 years I've been on this coaching journey. I started off coaching the under-18s at South Logan. Now this is the second year at Queensland Cup. And, I really enjoy the grind of, I guess, planning training sessions, but the biggest thing for me, which I think is very similar to what Wayne did really well, is I love the interactions with my players and talking to them first as a human, and then second, obviously, about footy. And that's what made, in my eyes, I don't know if you've had much interaction with Wayne, him the best coach, is because he sees the person foremost before the athlete. And obviously they're intertwined, but you just really felt like Wayne cared for you, and as a consequence, everyone just gave your all for him. And it's really that simple. And the persona that you talk about in the media, it's just because the media aren't his people. Like, he's just doing a job, so he's putting up a facade just to obviously bat him away. But as you've seen, and all of us have seen who know Wayne, have been around him, he can be one of the funniest and likeable characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think key takeaway there was you used the word simple. And I think a lot of us in the room, in real estate, in business, we do overcomplicate things. Like real estate's a very simple job. Get in the house, list the property and sell it. You know what I mean? So, and I always talk about real estate as it's a sport to me. It's just non-contact. We're here to, absolutely just annihilate our competitors, because in real estate, you get the listing, you get the sale. You don't eat if you're second. You know what I mean? It's you get one shot at it and you're the listing agent and you get to sell it. So I take my business like a sport. Is there anything that you've seen, like growing up, hitting that top level, that you reckon, you could bring across into business as well too, like from professional sport, around the, probably more around the mindset. And we're going to dig into a little bit more mindset with another one of our speakers, but I think it starts with mindset.
I don't know if you got anything off the top of your head. Yeah, but I'm not a businessman, so I'm not going to pretend to be know what I'm talking about. But I guess if you're going down the mindset route, like I've been lucky enough to play with actual greats of the game in rugby league and AFL. Darren Lockyer, I watched on a daily from a 17-year-old kid until I left. You had Gordon Tallis, Shane Webke. In Origin arenas, you had Cam Smith, Billy Slater, Thurston. And then you go to AFL arenas, you got Gary Ablett Jr. Right?
I was about to say Ablett straight away.
Greatest.
Yep.
And then, in the rugby circles, Michael Hooper, just to name a few, Quade Cooper. And I guess their mindset, and Matt hit the nail on the head before, they've got this inner belief in themselves. And this is something that, I've kind of fluctuated with it. Like, I'm being open and honest here, I can be a little bit sensitive at times, yeah? And when there's distractions, when there's noise, and I've learned this about myself, especially through the AFL period, where it was, he's doing this, he's not here for the journey, he's here for the money, da-da-da. And my inner core, even though they paid me $1 million, is a lot of money, right? But my curiosity was to and the pure reason why I wanted to change sports was because I knew time was finite. I knew I was running out, and I knew that I had the capability to play multiple sports as a young kid. So I said to myself, why should I not try this at a professional level? And when the AFL came along, as I just mentioned the story, I just said, fuck it, I'm going to have a go, right? And I learnt so much about myself. But again, along the way, back to what I was talking about, mindset, my belief through that whole experience, although, yes, I had that inner belief of, I can do this, like it ebbs and flows just because I am, quite a sensitive guy at times. But these players, and maybe they just put on this hard-edged shell, just nothing seems to rattle their confidence in themselves, And a bit like yourself, I guess, right? You're just such a confident guy that sells.
Yeah, I'm full of confidence.
But like
you got 200 of them in here as well.
Yeah, Matty spoke about it before. These guys are just they're unshakable in terms of their belief in themselves and what they do. And I guess that's the end product that you see. But it's probably just years and years since they were a little kid of just making sure that their processes were just kept getting refined, kept getting better, and then they got to a point in their career where they were literally walking goats around the field, which was a really a really enjoyable sight to see and a learning experience for me.
Yep.
What was the question again?
I
really
totally.
Answer, though.
I do have a question for both of you.
Okay.
We all want to know.
Oh, yeah, that's right, mindset. Sorry, I did. So I've sort of drifted similar to Carmichael into coaching now. So I'm coaching the North Devils BMD women's side, which Chris doesn't sponsor, but we beat them last week, South. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I had to get that out here at some point.
Yeah, we'll cut that
out
from the
there
vid.
at some point. For anyone that follows that, we did beat them last week.
You had to bring it up, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been waiting for the moment.
Yeah.
Now back to mindset. So as a coach, for me, I was an assistant coach. I kind of got pushed into it. So unfortunately, a couple of injuries. I had 2 disc replacements in my neck. The surgeon after the second one went, "Come on, Wardy, time to stop." So I had to call it. But I just signed down at St George Illawarra Dragons with Jamie Soward. He was head coach and he rang me. I said, look, second disc replacement, it's time. I need to call it. I want to have kids one day and pick them up. So it was time for me to call it. And he sort of just said to me, well, instead of cutting up your contract, why don't you come be a coach? Like, you've been a leader in the game for so long. Why don't you step into the coaching realm and come follow me? Because I don't know what I'm doing with women. I said, shit, neither do I, but we'll work it out together. So I went down and it was one of the best seasons. Dragons, we went through to the grand final, lost in the last dying minutes. Bloody Jess Surges, for anyone that knows her. For Roosters, pipped it, got the try right at the end to steal the win. But that was one of the best seasons I've ever had. It was probably like one of my most enjoyable times. And that sort of ignited my spark for coaching. And I've gone on now, I'm assistant coaching at Broncos with Scott Prince, for Queensland with Tani Norris, and also PNG women, which has probably actually been a really cool experience. That journey's really taught me to appreciate everything we have here in Australia, and as women, how lucky we are to have so many supportive men around us. I think a lot of the time we talk about women and that we don't have enough support, but I think there's so many men around us that help us to get to where we are. So yeah, my journey's sort of grown, and now I'm head coaching, and to get there, the mentors that I've needed along the way has been massive, and I've learnt so much good things and bad things, and then kind of moulded that into who I want to be. And none of this talk's been about mindset. I've totally... Did I mention anything about mindset?
Yeah, that's all good.
But the moral of my story that I did want to get to was what Maddie mentioned earlier about doors sort of opening and closing, and it leads you in a direction. And my biggest thing that I as a coach want to get out of the players is the connection. So I'm big on footy. You've got to be talented. You've got to be able to work hard. But if you can create an environment that people want to come into, work every day, enjoy it, have fun, but also be open, create an environment where it's open, where girls can come and talk to you if they're struggling or they have things going on in life, and how you can support them. I think that gets the best out of the players when you're talking sort of footy sense.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, don't worry about that. We're the boss, it's okay. We can do whatever. Hey, any Mad Monday stories? You knew I was going to ask you this. Yeah. Like, come on. Like, we're in a very personal room here. Like, come on, give us some
I've got a question
sort of
for
juice.
you. Well, what do the real estate agents do for their end of season party? Do you just go home and sleep, or what do you do? I'd just like to know.
I know what my crew do, and it's completely different to some other crews. So.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're more well behaved.
Mate, we're fine.
Yeah, we didn't have any trouble.
There's cops in the room, man.
Look, it's the end of season Christmas party. It's every end of season Christmas party. We just call it Mad Monday. Boys just go and have fun. Like, try not to get in trouble.
It's every Monday.
No, I don't have any stories. I'm not going to do the boys in like that. But, there are some characters out there.
All right, I'll ask you this.
Okay.
Who was your most favourite player to play with?
It'd have to being a back and growing up, also idolising him, it'd have to be Darren Lockyer.
Lockyer, okay.
And I don't know why he's not an immortal yet. Hopefully he's considered to be the next immortal. Obviously, there's plenty of other names out there that deserve the honour, but I just think being able to watch Lockyer just turn up each week, be the littlest on the field, work the hardest, but never take a backward step and always step up when the moment counts, whether it was in grand finals, whether it was in Origin arenas or in the NRL.
Yep.
He's the greatest for mine, and I was very privileged to obviously watch him go about his business.
Who was the toughest?
Be my own teammates, Shane Webke and Tony Carroll, Brad Thorne, and then
They're like bricks, man.
Well, they are, exactly. So to be able to train against them, and look, it was, as a 17-year-old kid, no one talked to me when I got to that changing shed. It was, show us what you can do before we'll talk to you. And then when training happened, if you went in there getting your fingernails dirty and having a go, you'd be out of that door pretty quickly. So I learnt real quick that I better go out there and have a go, because otherwise I won't earn these boys respect. And when they started talking to you, including you in things, obviously knew I was on the right path. So it was a good lesson for me.
Yeah. Meg, toughest competitor?
Toughest competitor. I'm going to say Isabel Kelly. We played opposite each other for the 2 of the grand finals, 2 out of 3 of the grand finals, and she is just an absolute competitor. I've never met anyone more dedicated in their training and their off-field and everything that they do. And then as a player and as a leader, she's just a freak. We did win those 2 grand finals, but she was like next level. She's just strong, aggressive, still is, palms in the face. All that kind of stuff.
Just as rough.
Yeah.
When I go and watch NBL 1, which is the league under NBL, at Logan Thunder, they have the women's first before the men's, and I so enjoy watching the women's basketball. They're so they're fast, they're rough, and they're into it. It's sometimes better.
Women are crazy.
Well, we know that. But we're going to open up the floor. So if anyone, and we've got a mic, so if you've got a question for Meg or for Carmichael, we've got a few minutes just before we break to... so where's Lukey? At the front here, matey? Yeah? Well, you probably don't need a mic for you. But everyone will want to hear your questions, so... Spotlight's on you.
Okay, thank you. You've both been, worked under amazing coaches, particularly Wayne Bennett, and his latest book that's been written about him is the Wolf You Feed. So, when you have your good moments and down moments. So transitioning from player under a coach to become a coach when things aren't working so well, what is the strategy that you implement to get yourself out of that when you have to do it yourself?
That's a good question. It's timely for myself as well. So we're 3 weeks into our season. We've won 1 game and lost 2. And on the weekend, when we travelled to Bishop Park to play Norse, we got beat by about 20 points. So, this is all new experiences for myself. But I guess how I'm going about it, or how I believe is best to go about it, is to make sure that I think you keep perspective and making sure that we have a game plan, or we have a plan in terms of how we want our season to progress. And although the results aren't going our way at the moment, there's no point deviating right now. And I think having that calm, having that resolute belief in what we're doing and where we're going, as well as giving the boys honest feedback as well about what we're not doing right. But I think having a leader that is calm, resolute, and has a clear picture of where we're going, especially in moments of crisis. And I wouldn't call this a crisis, but in terms of moments of, people questioning our results, and, there'll be boys feeling that their form's not up to it. There'll be all these other distractions and head noise going around the joint. I just feel my best practice is to make sure that we just turn up the training, make sure we're worrying about the next day, and making sure that we're focus on getting better, but not deviating or panicking or doing anything like that, because I've played for coaches before that will be really dictated to by results and also be really dictated to by what they hear in the media, and that energy gets passed along to the group, and then the group starts to splinter. So, again, a very worthy experience that I went through, learning from that coach of what not to do, but something that I'm making sure that I don't put into practice as a young coach myself.
Probably for me so far, my biggest thing that I try and create is exactly what Carmichael was just saying. You have a process in place, you have a game plan, trust that. You've come up with it for a reason, or you've thought that would work for a reason, so trust it. It's not always going to go right. You're going to have games that you lose, but back what you've come up with is going to work, and make the players believe that. If you can get the players' belief and get the players or your team, for you guys, to believe in you and what you're coming up with, then that will create an environment that, yes, we've lost, but as Maddie was saying, a loss is a learning point. So if you lose, we go away, we learn from it, trust our processes, trust each other, believe in each other, and it'll get better. I don't think that having moments where you just start dropping players and sacking them, because they're not going to feel good for that, you know what I mean? So just keep believing in the players and believing in your processes.
Sure. Any other questions? Derek, you know where he is. Oh, Scotty, you go, mate.
Quick one. Carmichael, just that period at the Broncos, you were bored, you were giving up. What was the messaging that the coaches and senior staff were trying to put onto you to keep you to stay on?
Look, I didn't. And when I mean bored, we were winning every week and we were making finals, and I sort of was playing Origin. I was playing in Test matches. I'm not ADHD, but like I know, like I got a time frame to get things done when I become too old. And like in terms of the boredom, it was, I guess I'd been playing league since I was 4. I love the game, which is why I'm back into it. But the processes at training were becoming, I guess, less stimulating because we were turning up. I was doing the same thing over and over and over. So coaches, they weren't aware of it. Peter Nolan, the footy manager at the time, was obviously wanting me to stay. And like as much as I love the club, I think my mind was really made up to just going out there and see what else was there for me. So, yeah.
We'll take one more question from Derek and then we'll roll to lunch.
This one's for Carmichael. Always wanted to know who was the loosest player, water boy or character that you've played with or done business with at the Broncos?
Well, Alf still is a water boy, and he'd be one of the craziest getting around. So, look, league's full of characters. One thing I will say is that the characters are the same in AFL, the characters are the same in rugby. It must just be footy teams. It must be just male energy a part of a footy team. And who would who would want to be a coach having to manage all that? I don't know.
I thought you might.
You signed up for it.
No, I have. But, look, Alpha's probably off the top of my head one of the funniest blokes to be around and to see in action when he's on the booze.